Jambo, my name is Erik Hersman. I grew up in Kenya and Sudan. These days I'm, I guess you would call a web strategist or a mobile strategist, and I build mobile phone and web applications. And I write two blogs, one called AfriGadget and one called whiteafrican.com, where I talk about both web and mobile technology. AfriGadget is focused on figuring out and finding stories of people in Africa who are trying to solve everyday problems with African ingenuity. These days my full-time job is at Ushahidi. Ushahidi is a mobile and web-based application that came out of the post-election violence in January and February of 2008 in Kenya. Ushahidi means testimony in Swahili, and we built it so that people around the country, just ordinary citizens, could text in, email, or get on a web forum and send in information and reports about what was happening in their area. Since then, we've decided to rebuild Ushahidi and make it into a global product, a platform that anybody can use so that they don't have to repeat what we did back then building from scratch. One of the interesting things is we're finding that people are going to use this software for things that we hadn't thought about at first. So we use it for crowdsourcing crisis information, which means that we're trying to bring people, as one of our members likes to call it, we like to liberate data, liberate information. So we want to hear from the public, from the people out in the field saying what's happening in a situation, in a crisis situation, and we want to see how that helps with early warning and in crisis situations. But we're finding that there's other groups that are going to be using it for different types of things, to track distributed data gathering and visualization. And an example of that is FOCO in Madagascar, who will be using it to track rainforest deforestation. They'll be giving the members of their group and villagers out in the forests the SMS number, a short code, that they will then use whenever somebody is doing some illegal logging nearby, and they'll track that. One of the interesting things I find when I travel around Africa is that there's no lack of innovation or entrepreneurism. It doesn't matter if it's stories that I'm looking for AfriGadget or working with the different programmers and developers on Ushahidi. 80% of our developers are based here in Africa, in Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, Malawi, South Africa, and we do have some in the US and some in Europe. And but the majority of the work comes from here in Africa, and it's important that it comes from here because we believe that if it's made in Africa, it'll work anywhere. One of the interesting things that we found out too is that the lack of innovation that people think they see in Africa is not really a lack of innovation. It's a lack of capital and a willingness to take risk by people who have that capital to actually expand and grow wealth through entrepreneurism. So there's a little bit of a hole right now between in a small scale venture capital market where people can't get seed capital to get going. Once you're a medium-sized business, it's very easy to get capital, or much easier to get capital. But we're not finding that's the case with some of the small young innovators. And I think that's an area that we could probably see a lot of either development groups or capital groups come in and change. And then I guess lastly, I would say that one of the things that we're really interested in finding out about with Ushahidi and with AfriGadget is how we can directly invest ourselves in time to help people get a better understanding of what's going on in Africa and help the people who are working on the projects here get more recognition for what they're doing.